just another breeding insect? Or are you a man with intelligence? Nature only cares about the species, does not care about the individual. If you consider yourself to be only matter, just another being that roams the planet, another animal who is subject to the whims and wishes, biology, or Mother Nature, you are making little of human beings. We are not just made up of matter. We have intelligence and a soul. We have consciousness. Some men find the notion of being just another evolved ape, just a mass of cells, to be comforting, easier to deal with. They never consider the emotional, mental torture that goes hand in hand with being an intelligent human being. Their thinking would even suggest that we dismiss it in favor of submitting to the notion that we are just matter without a mind, without a self or a psyche to answer to. When biological decisions are made for us, we're listening only to our bodies and the animalistic urges that nature gave us to propagate the species called mankind. We forget the individual self, and we give in to nature's plan. We let biology win over intelligence. We admit that we're just not thinking apes, whose thoughts and intelligence can be cast aside in favor of biological urges. Are we just animals? Just a collective of breeding animals, moving from one generation to the next? That's all it is, just breeding to propagate a species that considers men to be disposable sperm donors and workhorses. If you buy into the notion that you're just another creature who responds to the chemical transactions in its brain, you've reduced yourself to the level of a fish, or just another insect willing to sacrifice himself as a meal. Well then, are you a fish? Just another breeding insect? Or are you a man with the intelligence that nature gave you, which sets us apart from the apes in the forest? Do apes drive cars, or use laptops, or even wear clothes, or cook food? When we reduce ourselves to that biological level, we are nothing more than that. Just a blob of cells devoid of intellect. A man can choose to adopt an attitude, that of an animal, or that of a human being, capable of so much more than the self-sacrifice of giving in to his sexual urge to continue a species which throws men away. If we reduce ourselves to just matter, then it's the same as saying that a guitar is just a wooden box with strings on it that a man picks up and plucks for no good reason, and sounds come out of it that make no sense, and other people just sit around and listen to that noise. You see, there's always a way of talking about something to reduce it to just cause and effect and make it less human. If we see ourselves as just a bag of skin and bones and flesh and blood with some chemicals that power a brain made up of cells inside a skull, then we are dehumanizing ourselves. What about intelligence? That intelligence that sets us apart from animals. Can a dog play a guitar? Not like a human, he can't. Dogs fuck. People fuck. But dogs can't build cars, or make mobile phones, or write books, or poems, or create anything. Humans create and build, and more specifically, men create and build. So which game works better? One where we see ourselves as sacrificial breeding insects at the mercy of uncontrollable, predetermined biological urges, just like the impulsive and unintelligent animals we share this earth with. Or the game where we see ourselves as human beings who are able to pick up guitars and make music for others to appreciate and be entertained. And more importantly, do we play the game and adopt the attitude where we see ourselves as men? The male gender of the human species who created civilization after civilization. Men are so much more than disposable sperm donors, and dogs who fuck out of boredom or a need to procreate because nature forced them to. Animals do what nature tells them to do, and they never question why. If we think and act the same way, then yes, we are just being animals. Then you're no better than a fish. But we have a choice here. We need to rationalize. We have to assess risk for the preservation of the self, the individual. Fuck the species. The species will recycle you, and another man will take your place. Don't let yourself be taken in by scientific, medical, biological, or animalistic interpretations of what a man is. We're so much more than that. We are human beings, but when nature forces you to breed for pleasure or procreation, you become nothing more than a human doing. If you believe that your intellect, your consciousness, is nothing more than colloidal substances inside a mass of cells, then you insult yourself. You put yourself down. You're against your own life, and you welcome human suffering. You advocate for recklessness and self-harm, dressed up as uncontrollable chemical, biological impulses. People who are like this call it being realistic. But when you take intellect and rationality out of the equation, you are comparing yourself to a frog or a snail. Just a living thing. It's uncomfortable to consider that there are no rewards for men anymore. When it comes to women making babies, the game is rigged. She's not your woman, and those aren't your children. The state will tell you that, like it or not. The woman has had many sexual partners before you, and you won't be the last. So join the queue, man. Don't play that game of natural selection. That's nature's plan. A game for the animals. Now it seems to me that any man who doesn't play this game of mating strategies is at a distinct advantage. Take females out of the equation, and he can embrace his intellect. plants spread seed, procreate? Are you a plant? Just another tree, flower? To say that men are all biologically wired to be the same suggests that there is only one type of life that all men must follow. No individuals, just plants spreading seeds. If a man feels he has to give in to nature and ignore his gift of an intellect, then he is nothing more than that. His reasoning and rationality serve only to justify his existence as a plant, a being that serves a purpose to the world around him, but never to himself. If you ignore the fact that you have a soul that can be tortured, or a psyche which can be damaged, you're fooling yourself. If it takes an emotional bus to run you over, snap your spine and cripple your mind before you learn to overcome this plant-like existence, then so be it. It will be a glorious and beautiful awakening for you. It will truly be a painful and wonderful rebirth, a miracle. The soulless void you live in, this world of chemical interactions, will become very real, and maybe you can move past this very black way of thinking. And so we go back and forth with this debate, but who are you arguing for? Nature and the female mantis, or man and his infinite intellect? If you consider yourself to be nothing more than an animal, a fish, or a plant, that's what you'll become. You give up the control over your life, and you surrender to biology.
Unlike mammals, insects can survive for some time after losing their heads, as it were.